Welcome to a very special NSF live stream. We're going to be live with astronaut Don Pettit on the ISS to talk about his photography from the station. This is going to be so cool.
And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
RS-68 chamber pressure looks good.
Rolling up. Roger, roll, Atlantis.
Water towers, fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside, speed off. Bring in, speed off. Off. It's orange!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage. Look at that. Put that in the big bag, Tingle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Thanks. You bet. Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Welcome to the show. I'm Jack Beyer, and we are NSF. NSF is a conglomerate of dedicated space news reporters who want nothing more than to help spread the excitement about the new space age that we all live in. In service of that, today we'll be talking to astronaut Don Pettit while he's whipping around low Earth orbit on the ISS. Let's listen in now to Houston for the handoff. This is so cool. Don't want to talk over it, so we're just waiting.
Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Houston Station, we are ready for the event.
Jack Beyer, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is Jack Beyer. How do you hear me?
Station hears you loud and clear, Jack.
Fantastic. Don, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us while you're in space. We have a limited amount of time here, and I just want to jump right into questions if that's all right with you.
That is perfectly fine with me. Talking about imagery and astrophotography and images from space, one of my favorite topics.
This is the coolest thing. All right. First, right off the bat, why is ISS photography important to you, and what are the challenges of taking photos in microgravity?
Well, images from space help tell the story to people on Earth that don't have the opportunity to go into space. When your mission is over, it's photographs and memories, which reminds me of an album from Jim Croce. And if you don't have the photographs, all you've got are the memories and the stories you could tell. So the photographs help complete the story of what it means for human beings to expand into space and expand into this frontier.
Fantastic. And that's part of the reason why we love your sharing of this stuff so much. A follow-up to that, you recently captured Starlink satellites from space and you compared them to cosmic fireflies. Did you set out specifically to capture these Starlinks with that shot, or was it sort of a surprise that happened along the way with some of your captures, intended for one purpose but showing another?
Initially, the Starlink started to show up in the imagery. And then I thought, let me see if I could just photo document the Starlink. So the images that I've sent down that show the Starlink satellites are ones that I intentionally did. And let me point out the fascinating thing about these satellites, those bright reflections are only seen in an orbital environment from from another orbit. Those reflections do not get down to Earth. So that's the surprising thing, is what are all these bright flashes? It took us a while to figure that out.
Excellent. How does capturing major Earth events from space change your perspective on them, and how do you think your unique point of view affects the conversation on Earth?
It gives you more data to think about, to incorporate in your stories, in your way of life. If you view something on the ground, you can see for what? 10, 20, 30 miles is your sort of event horizon for viewing. Maybe on top of a mountain, you could see further. Then you get in an airplane and you can see for hundreds of miles, and that changes your perspective. When you get on space station, our event horizon, our field of view is about 4,000 kilometers. So it really changes the perspective of what you see. You see the same thing, but it gives you a different perspective.
Recently, new cameras, lenses, some ND filters, and other equipment have been brought to the ISS. Is there imagery that you can capture now that you couldn't before? And is the newer technology allowing you to better share your vision?
The newer technology is exactly that. It's newer technology, and it allows us to operate and take the imagery in a manner that the older cameras would not allow. And the lenses available now are faster. They could transmit more light. And for example, this lens behind me here, this is a 15 millimeter wide angle lens. It looks like a telephoto lens, but it's a extreme wide angle, and it is really fast. It has an f-stop of around 1.5, or in the vernacular of these cinema lenses, t-stop of 1.8. So it lets in a lot of light in a wide angle view and allows us to collect imagery that was not possible even on my last mission, which was 12 years ago.
Wow. Does microgravity affect the work that you're doing in getting these shots?
Yes, it does, in mostly a good way. And let me demonstrate that here. I've got this huge camera system set up, and it's a 800 millimeter telephoto lens with a solar filter. And this thing is a joy to work with here. You can have it on uh, a little arm, and because it is weightless, you don't need to worry about schlucking it around. You could just push it around with two fingers and do imagery in a way that you can't do on Earth. With this camera and this lens system, you'd have to have it on a big skookum tripod in order to do imagery. And here it's just a little arm or even free float, and you could get your imagery done. So there are things that we could do up here that would make many photographers envious when they're mounting their heavy gear on these stout tripods.
Nice. I see you're in the cupola there. Are there any considerations for shooting through the windows?
Yes, pluses and minuses. The cupola here, it has 4 panes of I'll say transparent material. We have an outer pane which is not structural, and it takes all the hits from micrometeorites. And then we have 2 pressure panes, and these are highly figured, highly polished, flat windows that are about an inch and a quarter thick each. And then we have an inner acrylic scratch pane to protect the pressure panes, because you can imagine you don't want to be digging up the windows that hold the atmosphere in space station. You don't want to bust a window. So we've got these acrylic scratch panes. And what this does, it gives you a stack that's maybe 5 inches thick with 4 panes. That's 8 surfaces, each one giving a bit of a reflection. And you're always trying to fight reflections off the windows in a way that you typically don't need to worry about on Earth.
So you brought a home-built tracking device up to the ISS to take photos with. Can you talk about why building your own device was needed and the sort of capabilities it brings to your photography?
Yes. Station, when it goes around Earth, it takes 90 minutes to go around Earth, and it keeps the same side pointed towards Earth. So think of it, the belly button, the station stays pointed towards Earth as it goes around. And in the process of doing that, station then rotates once every orbit about itself, and that rotation keeps you from taking long time exposures of the stars. So you can make star trail pictures, but you can't have stars as pinpoints. And what I wanted to do was make a tracking system that instead of rotating once every 24 hours to counter Earth's rotation, which is what amateur astronomers do on Earth, this device rotates once every 90 minutes, so it counteracts the rotation attitude motion of station, and now it allows you to photograph stars as pinpoints. You could do time exposures, and I've got it here behind me. Let me see if I can show you here. Here's this wide angle lens, and it's on a bogan arm, and right here it's kind of mounted down on station is this device. This one is a wind-up device. It has a little clock motor, a little wind-up clock motor that some friends of mine built this, colleagues of mine at RIT. And you wind it up, and it rotates once every 90 minutes. You can speed it up and slow it down about 10% to compensate for the altitude of station. And then this rotates, and it allows the camera that you have on the rotation to move in the opposite direction station moves. Therefore, stars remain fixed in your field of view, and you can do time exposures of star fields. And I've got 2 versions of this. One runs off of batteries and has a little stepper motor in it, and then I've got this mechanical version.
Super neat. Just a quick follow-up. How does getting specific gear like the tracking rig up to the station work? Do you get like a small allotment of space or weight, or?
Yeah, every crew member gets the equivalent of a large handbag. If you see what you can take on an airplane these days to carry on, say a largish backpack, a rucksack. You get something like that you could put in for your personal kit, and you can put anything in it that will get through the NASA safety review. Everything you fly up is reviewed by a number of folks, and I wanted these tracking systems, and instead of flying mementos for family and friends, I wanted to fly something I could actually use on station to collect imagery that previously was not possible. So I filled my little rucksack, my personal kit, with stuff I could use on this mission, and putting in these 2 drives. I call them an orbital sidereal drive. Sidereal is the normal 24-hour or near 24-hour rate that you need to make stars stationary if you're an astronomer, and so I call this an orbital sidereal drive. And it was important to me to fly 2 versions just in case. We're NASA. We always have backups. NASA engineers wear both belts and suspenders. And so this was my version of that, a wind-up device, and then a device that runs off of batteries with a stepper motor.
So cool. Thank you so much for filling your rucksack with photography gear, because the mementos you're giving us are the images. Next question. You capture so many photos on the ISS that editing and sharing all that much data must be a challenge. What sort of workflows does the ISS use to share all the imagery while allowing you to still edit and fully execute your creative vision?
We have support people on the ground, both in the astronaut office and in the photo TV group. People whose career it is to distribute and work on the imagery that we collect from space station. And during the mission, I rely on these people heavily because I want to spend my time on space station collecting the primary data, the imagery. I don't want to spend my time on station sitting in front of a computer. I could do that at home, and the image processing, the heavy image processing will be done after this mission. And I only do enough image processing here on station to verify that the images I'm taking are good and fall within the realm of what I want, and then I downlink everything to the ground, and I don't mess with the images anymore. So the images that you're seeing on social media right now are ones that I've either sent down as raw and folks on the ground have spiffied up for me and posted through proxy posting, or images that I've done a little bit of processing up here just to make sure that the imagery is okay, and then I get back using my off-duty time to take more images.
Fantastic. So there's so much more to come when you're back on Earth. All of us love to see the photos you've taken while on the ISS. How much of your photography is scheduled out as part of your work, or are you just regularly using up every scrap of your free time to share your view with the world?
Most of our work is actually that. We have a timeline. People have thought hard and figured out how we as crew should spend our time on orbit. And as you can imagine, with all the science and engineering research going on, and then the maintenance, it all has to be orchestrated. And we take pictures during these operation tasks to show what we've been doing, and they're kind of pseudo boring engineering pictures of clogged urine filters and things like that. All the Earth ob pictures, all the pictures that you see that shows what life is like on station. These are all done in astronauts' off-duty time. We typically have no time scheduled to just take beautiful pictures of Earth and show what it's like up here. But it's a labor of love, and that's what astronauts spend a lot of their off-duty time doing, is doing imagery, collecting the photographs that go with the memories to tell the story of what it's like up here.
It really makes such a huge difference. So thank you for spending your free time doing that. It's just utterly huge. Next up, you and your son documented Starship's recent 6th flight, and you pulled off shooting it from the ISS. Can you share some details about that experience and the challenges involved capturing it?
Yes, part of it is just dumb luck in terms of orbital mechanics. We happened to be within sight of Boca Chica during the launch. If the launch were delayed 20 minutes, we wouldn't have even been able to see it. But it was just the way the clockwork of orbital mechanics and the schedule for launching worked out. We happened to be overhead. And then it's just a question of knowing how to how to use your photography equipment, which lens to use, what kind of shutter speeds, exposures, ISO, that kind of stuff, and which window to look out in order to get the imagery. And I had help on that photograph, that series of photographs. Sonny Williams was in the cupola with me, and I was busy looking through the lens, and she was basically being the spotter, saying, "Oh, I can see it over there," when I was pointing in a different direction. And so she got me oriented towards the right direction.
Nice. Next up, what has been the most unexpected or personally significant image or event you've captured during this mission?
Oh gosh. I did some imagery of freezing thin wafers of ice so that you could look at the interlocking single ice crystals under polarized light. And I happen to have access to a freezer that goes down to minus 100 degrees centigrade. And that was really a fun bit of imagery to look at the crystal structure of ice when it freezes in microgravity. That's one set of imagery. The other imagery is just what I'm working on right now, which is using this orbital sidereal drive to do starfield pictures that previously have not been possible.
Well, Don, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. And again, thank you so much for using your time to create images that no one has ever seen before. Because when you make images like that, it really helps bring home spaceflight to people. So thank you. I think we just lost him for a moment. We're standing by. All right, that was the that will conclude the interview. Stand by just a moment, and Max, D, and I will unwrap everything we just learned because that was amazing. I just talked to the ISS. What?
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event. Thank you.
Thank you to all participants. Station, we are now resuming operational audio communications.
I mean, what do you even say about that? I'm just still trying to wrap my head around what just happened. We're gonna get Max and D in here. Max and D, feel free to unmute at any point. That was something.
That was so cool. That just happened. We talked to a literal astronaut flying at 17,500 miles an hour, 250 miles above the Earth's surface, aboard the International Space Station.
I so wish you two could have been in on the conversation as well. I wish we had 2 hours to talk with him. You know what I mean? But like he said, he doesn't edit the photos. He passes them down because his time is best spent taking more photos. So just to get 20 minutes with him. Oh man.
And to be frank, we were a little bit worried that maybe we didn't have enough for 20 minutes, and that was the fastest 20 minutes I think I've ever felt.
That was the fastest 20 minutes of my life.
Incredibly quick.
We were, funnily enough, we were simultaneously worried we didn't have enough questions or we had too many questions.
Yeah, we were talking about how, like, those questions, what we had pre-planned out, like, could have easily filled up an hour, 2 hours of time. We could have talked with more back and forth. We had the smaller follow-up questions, and, like, we easily could have had that go on for hours. And so we were skipping some, and then some of them went quickly. And so we were speeding up a little bit and trying to make sure we had everything we needed. That was really, really cool. That was a really cool conversation. What to even say?
Chat, I know, like we normally do the whole Q&A thing here. If you have any questions now that you want us to talk about, at NASASpaceflight and throw that in chat. Again, I would have so loved to ask a million more questions. I would have loved to get chat questions in there. We did ask our member Discord in the last couple days if they had any questions. We sort of took all of that, all of the NSF team members' questions, and sort of tried to distill it all down into as a rapid fire and informational of a thing as we could for 20 minutes. So thank you for hanging out with us for that, chat. I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to do chat questions, but we did our best. That's what we can do. I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as we did. But yeah, let's just start talking about everything. I mean, right off the bat, the orbital sidereal drive. Like, did we figure out a phrase that's cooler than supersonic retropropulsion? Because I think we might have.
we did.
I think, and
might have.
I feel like only Don is capable of coming up with a name like that. Like, it's so fitting. It fits so well.
Yeah, that was perfect.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, here's a shot. Look, it looks like a cloudy Earth, and here's a nice time lapse. You can see Don was talking about the station rotating. You can see the solar arrays rotating in that shot, which is really cool. God, just he knows full well what he's doing. He knows that he is making imagery that nobody else has seen before, that it straight up wasn't even possible to make before, and that is why he's dumping all of his time into this. Like, what a noble pursuit.
This specific shot was on one of his previous flights, showing a solar eclipse, actually showing the shadow of the moon on the Earth, and such a cool perspective that he's able to share with all of us from being up on space. Yeah, there's another still photo.
Yeah, you can
that event.
You can see the umbra, the penumbra, like the whole shadow. That's absolutely wild. This is the 2012 eclipse. Thank you, Kevin. Well, like anybody that has seen an eclipse from the ground that's been that fortunate knows it's an absolutely life-changing experience. To see one from orbit and take photos of it, how cool is that?
It's
not the only time he's done that either, right, Max?
No, not at all. He was not up there for this past eclipse in April, of course, but I think what's most striking about this is just how smooth the gradient is of the shadow from totality and fading outwards. Like, it's obviously not going to be a perfect circle with a hard edge, but it's a lot softer around the edges as well. But even for an object that's the size of the moon, you can see literally the entirety of the shadow from its soft edges all the way around. That's what I find most striking about that. And I think Station was just at like the perfect location to capture that. It was so great. It's great.
It's a really beautiful image too, because a lot of times when you're looking at solar eclipse maps and stuff, you see like the lines and the projected path, and it's a very like delineated thing with, like you said, hard edges, and that's not reality. Speaking of reality, here's looks like this is a fire of some kind, forest fire.
Those were wildfires in the west. That's one of the shots he got, like showing, like to me that sums up some of the importance of that space photography. It's a very different perspective. The fact that this is a photo he took from space, and it shows the size and scale of the fire and the effect. And I feel like the perspective that is gained from orbit can like help us realize a lot about our own planet. I think that's so cool. Like, yeah, Kevin's saying in the back channels, and it's so far away. Yeah, he's from so far away, and he's able to get this shot, and it's still such a. I think it's such an impactful image. And then,
imagery like that, and things like hurricanes, things like that we experience on the ground from a human perspective. But it allows us to think, okay, I'm not going to mess with this storm, or wow, these fires really are immense, or what have you. It really just it's important for a human mind to be able to contextualize things in that way.
Yeah, and then this shot is like he was fortunate enough to be in space and have perspective on multiple eclipses. So this one is from 2002 of a solar eclipse.
And just side note, that is partly why this was such a special thing to do. I mean, A, we're talking to an astronaut on the ISS. B, we're talking to Don Pettit, who has been in space so many times and who has made his entire raison d'etre to be photographing this stuff. So not only a 2012 eclipse shot, here's a 2002 eclipse shot. Like, Don has seen and shot it from space, if it's a thing. This is a volcano. Oh wow, you can see the ash plume. So beautiful. That's where we live. We live right there.
On that little pale blue dot.
And no kidding, man. No kidding.
You know,
Wow.
one of the first answers that Don gave about question one, and him really emphasizing that at the end of the day, the photos and the memories are all you have left. Like that's all you are able to fully take home with you.
Yeah.
That really, because for us in the field, and I'm sure you feel this as well, Jack. With us being out in the field and seeing as much as we do, and with how fast paced this industry has begun to move in the last 5 or 6 years, it's become easy to almost lose sight of what you're doing, and the importance that it really plays, not just with you, but for anyone who might be fortunate enough to view your content, whether it be NSF or anybody.
Right.
But at the end of the day, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, please finish your thought. I'm a dumb idiot.
No, it's refreshing for him to open with that. Such ironically, it's such a down to earth thing to say. Is that that's all you have left? Like at the end of the day, that's all you have. And I just find that so striking. And
it's not
just,
you don't have things, you don't have money, you don't have objects, you have the memories. And
correct.
I mean, speaking as a person with a horrible memory, a part of my motivation for photography and cinematography that I do, a part of it's selfish. You know, like I'll be looking through my photo library, and I'll just be like, oh wow, that happened. I totally forgot that happened. Or I'll be thinking of a specific event and I'll go back and look at images of it, and there's nothing quite like seeing a photo or a video of an event, especially one that you took, to remember. Yes. How it made you feel, the special things about it. And I don't know if you caught this too, Max. I feel like when he was talking about bringing up the star trackers, he was like, oh, I didn't put any personal stuff in my bag for friends and family. I just brought camera gear. There was like a twinge. Maybe I'm projecting here. There was like a twinge of like he felt a little bit bad about it. And if I had more time, I would have been like, Don, please don't feel bad about this. The thing you were giving everybody, literally all of humanity, is your imagery. Like a little trinket that went to space. Who cares? Like the photos are so much more powerful than that.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. But also, I'm sure if he has family or friends who are like, hey, can you bring like this sticker or even stuff like that up? He's like, I'm really keeping my bag to equipment. Like, I mean, it makes sense, but I could understand like wanting to capture more because I mean, it's so cool that he's spending what little bit of storage for his own stuff that he can in order to share images with everyone.
I mean,
yeah, no favorite snacks, no mementos, no camera gear.
Every single ounce, every single pound of equipment that they bring up matters because weight is everything, not just for spaceflight, but of course for launch. And I think it's a worthy sacrifice because obviously Don has a job to do, so that's where that came from. Don has a real job to do, and I think that's a worthy sacrifice. Just in my opinion, sacrificing anything that he might want to fly from significant others, family members, because he has really proven that his imagery from orbit has proven immense value to anyone who's looking at it, and it's made huge rounds across all of social media and of course across NASA itself, and we are just fortunate enough to help spread that message. But I sense that too, Jack. To answer your question, I did sense that, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know if I would feel that terrible about it, to be honest.
I mean, I wouldn't either. Like, I would definitely. My bag always would be full of camera gear.
And that's not to say I think he does either. I mean, I don't want to, put words in his mouth or whatever, but clearly, with the amount of effort that he's dedicating to his photography on the ISS, he sees the utility and value in it. So, I mean, sort of thing is so important. Showing people our beautiful planet, showing people the things they've never seen before. That's like, can you do anything better or more important or impactful as a photographer or cinematographer than showing people, than creating images no one has ever seen before? That's like the holy grail. That's like being a caver and going into a new cave that no one has ever explored or documented before. Like that's like being, a pilot or flying around the world before anybody else. Or like that's like being a skater and doing a insert name of a skate trick, 420 wheelie nose bone. I don't know. You get what I mean, though, right? Like to be able to be a photographer and be able to create images that have never been seen or made before. Wow. And like this image right here, the ice crystal photo he was talking about.
Yeah, so he was
cool.
talking about that. And so it's a negative 90 degrees Celsius freezer, and it's shot underneath polarized light in order to show all those different colors. Like I'm sure we all have seen so many ice crystals, but none quite like that. But that like shows the way that the frozen the ice in that thin sheet polarizes light in different directions, which for those who aren't super familiar with polarization, it's something that photographers will use. There are these things called polarizing filters because all light isn't the same, and it basically has a direction that it's oriented.
It has a polarity.
It has a polarity. And so it has that direction it's oriented. And when you use a polarizing filter, you're able to do things like cut off specific reflections on a piece of glass or something like that. And this shows the way that refracted or reflected light through ice also has that polarization that photographers often like to take advantage of.
Yeah, if you've ever worn polarized sunglasses, you know exactly, what polarizing like light can do.
Yeah.
Like if you're a fisherman, you might use polarized glasses to be able to see in the water better, that sort of thing. Since we're talking about photography, we wanted to round out this show on photography with some of our favorite images we've taken. I mean, the last question we asked Don was about, personally significant images that he's captured. So we thought, we would go through some of our own and maybe talk about them a little bit. Whose is this?
Oh, wow. Yeah. So this is probably my favorite streak shot that I've ever taken. This was taken in December of 2021. This is the launch of Turksat 5B from Space Launch Complex 40 on the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Myself and a couple of buddies went north up past Playa Beach. We had this whole location all to ourselves. We were under a full moon, so the beach and the waves were lit incredibly well. And we just went for a long exposure since it was heading to a geostationary transfer orbit, so straight east. So the arch was, we had a direct side view of the full flight path, the arch, if you will. It came out super well. And I remember
I see someone in that image.
Yeah. So I went out with my buddy Michael Kane and also his buddy Brian. And Mike was like, "Hey, you want to go be in the shot? Like, I want you to stand underneath the arch as a subject." And I'm like, "I don't know if I can hold still because I think this is about an 8-minute exposure." And for those who aren't familiar, when your camera is taking a multi-minute exposure, any movement of any object will come across as blur. Anything that's not completely stationary will blur and look soft. So what I had to do was I had to run off the side of the camera to not leave any footprints in the sand going up to me. And then I just had to stand there for 8 minutes, as still as I could be, until the shutter on the camera closed. Came back and this image was up on the screen, and it just looked fantastic. That was a very memorable night.
Couple things. One, that reminds me of like old-timey photos, like on daguerreotype or whatever, where the people in the photo had to sit super still because the exposure times were so long. So if they moved at all, it would be blurry, and like that's why in old-timey photos nobody's smiling because you have to sit there like this. for however long the exposure was. Two, Max, this is like getting into the weeds a little bit, but hey, I'm the host. I can do what I want. Max, how do you feel about the streak that goes from the right side of the frame to the left side of the frame versus a streak that goes from the left side of the frame to the right side of the frame? I mean, this is a beautiful streak, don't get me wrong, but I personally like streaks that go from the left to the right better. Like, it just looks right in my head. If there's ever a chance where I can compose a streak that way, that's what I do. But you can't always do that.
This might be a bit of a hot take, but it doesn't bother me necessarily which direction it goes.
No preference?
No preference. No preference. I mean, I prefer to be on the opposite. So let's say take like a Group 6 Starlink launch where they're heading southeast. For those, I would almost prefer to be on the north. So that way the arch won't be taking up a majority of your frame, because of course when you are north of the pad and it's flying southeast, it's flying away from you. Right. So the arch as a whole will look smaller, and therefore I think it's just a bit prettier. But I don't have a preference, honestly. I think it really just depends on where it's launching and where you want to be for it.
It's completely subjective, but that's just the kind of thing that I'm curious about, because every photographer has a different eye. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same when I'm shooting jets. Like, thank you, Kevin. Much better. Way better. 10 out of 10. Ew, boo, boo. No, Max, I'm kidding. But no, it's the same when I'm shooting jets. Like, there are some great spots you can go to shoot jets flying below you in a canyon, but the spot is they're flying right to left, and it just looks wrong to me. Anyways, my brain is broken. Let's move on. D, talk about this magnificent set of pixels you managed to snag.
This is a really recent one, of course. During Flight 6, this isn't the shot I was intending to capture. This camera was set up. I was intending to capture a landing, but I had it all set well enough. Like, the exposure was great for the flame, which was the goal there, and I just loved the way that this looked. And this photo is set of a sequence. I posted those at a different point, but you could see the shadow of the chopsticks on Starship and on the booster, and I think it was all about light. Like, this launch especially, the light was just gorgeous. And so it's an incredibly recent image, but in terms of still imagery, this very, very quickly became one of my favorites.
So the question we asked Don was most unexpectedly or personally significant image. So what about this image for you, D, like, made it clear that bar? Was it because it was unexpected? Is it significant to you in a certain way? Do you just really like it? I mean, I would like it if I shot it.
Honestly, I just really like it. This sounds kind of lame. Maybe I should have. I was not sure which photos to pick. I could have easily picked. I think I sent Kevin 4 or 5 for my favorite photos. And
I think we both did.
Yeah,
it's hard to pick.
And so this one was just. I was just so happy with it. It's gorgeous, like, and it's a combination of, like, knowing the shot you want to get, setting up for it, but Don mentioned it with spotting the Starlink satellites by chance at first. Like, there's some luck in there. Like, if a cloud had been at the wrong position and there hadn't been some nice light on the booster, this wouldn't have been nearly as cool of an image.
Right.
Like,
yeah, I'm not a religious person. I am not superstitious. I'm not even slightly stitious, but I do believe in the photo gods. The photo gods are a thing, and sometimes the photo gods shine on you. Sometimes they don't. And, you can call it whatever you want. You can call it chance. You can call it random circumstance. I call it photo gods for fun. And, sometimes you never know what you're going to get, and those little happy accidents can really be awesome sometimes. That's why I wanted to ask that question so bad. This is my shot. This is a really significant image to me. This is the first flight of the world's largest plane by wingspan, called Rock. It's flown by a company named Stratolaunch, who is awesome. This plane was being built out in Mojave for years and years and years. And it was a company run by Paul Allen of Microsoft fame. And then Paul got sick and died, and the company went through a whole bunch of, company bureaucratic change of owners, all that kind of stuff. For a long time, Mojave is like the kind of place where it's like a lot of random startups and companies go there and make stuff, and sometimes things come of it, sometimes they don't. So it was like, oh, is this plane ever going to fly? So for years, we're waiting on the first flight of this plane, and back in April of 2016, 2017, whenever this was, I was out in the desert, like 3 hours away, camping with some friends, and a buddy of mine who's another aviation plane spotter hit me up and was like, yo, dude, tomorrow's the day. I was like, what? And so I had to go to all my friends and be like, hey, guys. So we're camping, right? How would you feel about driving 3.5 hours through the middle of the night and camping in an airport? And bless my friends because they were down. And we rolled out and we got there just in time. And yeah, it's the first flight. It's an image no one has ever seen before. It's the first time this plane ever flew, and it was the first image that I ever made in the spaceflight space that like actually got some traction. Like I was doing interviews with the BBC, I was getting called by CNN that day. Like it was a really, really good day. It was the first time I ever did anything that really got some like newsworthy traction, and it was just something that I had really wanted to see and document for years and years and years. So yeah, that's that one. Ooh, I see an atlas.
Mighty Atlas. So this image was taken in the first half of 2022. This was the launch of GOES-T, the predecessor to what recently launched on Falcon Heavy, being GOES-U back in June of this year. This was my second time photographing Atlas, but my first time shooting it successfully, because it was, I think, STP3 back in late 2021 was my first, but the conditions that morning were just awful, and both cameras just weren't working and fogged over and just a bunch of nasty stuff. But this time, the light was good, late afternoon light again, and I had that image, or I had this camera, I should say, about as close as ULA will pretty much let you without your camera being either roasted or tossed like over the fence because of the exhaust. And Atlas itself, especially with 5 solid rocket motors like this one had,
yep,
is notorious for just absolutely wrecking cameras and throwing SRB exhaust residue everywhere. And it's not stuff that you want to be touching with your bare hands. It smells and it'll burn your skin. It's nasty.
Have you ever licked the SRB residue? Like, what does it taste like?
I can't say I have, Jack. Have you?
Really, dude? I expect more from you. Come on, do better.
No, but I was just super pleased because this was actually the last time I used the lens that was on this camera, because, of course, if you don't get the residue off of your front element quick enough, it will, as you well know, it will hit and just scratch up your front element to a point where really the imagery just that you can take with it is not usable anymore.
Right.
But I was just so stoked because in this image, you can see for the first moments of Atlas leaving the pad, just the sheer amount of drama and power that is really trying to be contained within the flame trench as the exhaust begins to spill over onto the base of the pad. So, and of course, just with the sun being where it was, and this being my first time shooting an Atlas successfully, and also the last time I used this lens, I just think there were a lot of great factors went into this one for sure.
Nice. I love Atlas. I'm gonna be sad when it's gone.
Me too.
D,
it'll be around for a bit longer.
That's true. D, what's going on with SLS in this shot?
I mean, nothing at this time. But this was, I believe, the third rollout of SLS for Artemis 1. But despite that, it was the first time that we went into the VAB up multiple levels, be able to get this view. And Artemis 1, for a lot of people, was an exhausting,
nearly bankrupted me.
Really wearing.
It was a ride.
It was a ride.
It was a ride.
Yeah.
We actually
not a fun one.
We
at times it was.
At times.
To have an idea of the state we were in, like we went to a hurricane a few days before.
We did.
It actually
before
launched.
Yep.
The same hurricane that
Hurricane Nicole.
Nicole, yep. And so there were so many times that like we were like, all right, this is the time we're out overnight for a launch. But even more than when we saw it roll out, and we were able to be reasonably close for the rollouts. This really showed the scale for me because it was walking into the VAB, walking somewhat near it, getting into the elevator, and then riding the elevator up to, I think this is the 32nd floor.
Yeah. Level 32 or level 33. Yeah.
And then in order to actually see the base of the rocket, there were like two separate parts of that floor where we were. And one was like a more caged in area. And then this section like had its normal railings, but wasn't as enclosed. And we basically were allowed to like one at a time walk out there. And in order to get the shot, we're holding our cameras up above our heads and out a little bit.
Yep.
In order to see the entire rocket at once. And
you got to do what you got to do.
I mean, just
that was a good day.
That was a good day.
But it's also incredibly weird seeing SLS from a higher perspective because that's perspective for anyone. Normally, looking way up at it.
And this rollout in particular, we also got to set remote cameras for rollout. We did VAB and off the edge.
Yes,
so we had a lot more opportunities to see it during this specific rollout, and that it was such an exhausting time. We had all our cameras set out days in advance for the launch itself. Cameras got knocked over by the hurricane, so they did a new camera reset closer to launch than we thought we were going to be allowed to be at our cameras.
Yep.
Because we were setting up like 3 days in advance.
Yep.
Yeah, that was brutal. Oh God, Artemis 1 was so brutal.
I think I remember someone leaving a camera out without any bags over an R5. I think it was.
I remember that.
Yeah, I don't know who would have done that, especially when the forecast was so clearly going to be buttloads of rain. I don't know. Some guy without hair and a love of bacon and actually delicious bagels instead of stupid plain ones must have done that.
And so it was just an exhausting time. And this image is one of my favorites from the launch. Because during the launch itself, beyond my remote cameras, I was really focused on the video production. So, but I think stills have a special place alongside video. Like one doesn't take the place of the other.
No,
ever.
Absolutely not.
They're two very different things, and
absolutely,
especially in terms of today's like attention span kind of thing. Like a photo, you see it, and it's done everything it's going to do. I mean, I'm oversimplifying a bit, but you see the photos, you see it. Video, you actually have to like sit and watch the video, and most people today are just like scroll, scroll, scroll. I don't know how many people are actually sitting and watching a video versus like you see the photo, it impacts you, you take it in, you keep scrolling. Sorry, Max.
It's a lot easier to digest. Is what I was going to say. Like it's like the most easily digestible form of media, I would say.
Yeah, and so obviously I focus a lot more on video, so I could absolutely have sent my favorite video clips, and we could have been sitting here for an hour and a half watching my favorite launch video. Like I was very tempted to send my landing footage from GOES U, because we had the Falcon Heavy side course landing, and we were able to set up cameras in advance, and we had an elevated perspective on top of the blockhouse for that. And I had never been able to set remotes for a landing before, and so that's probably one of my favorite shots that I've taken.
I really hope that they allow us to do that again. I really hope so.
I hope so as well.
I know like public affairs is busy. I know rocket companies, especially around launch time, are busy. But whenever you get a company or an escort that's willing to go a little bit of the extra mile like that, it makes such a huge difference. Some of my very favorite photos of any rocket launch ever I have are from Slick 6, and that's because the people at ULA let us, if we wanted to, basically hike up this fire road to one of the deluge tanks and set our cameras next to that. And so it's like
Ooh.
you're like up a mountain looking down at Slick 6.
Oh, that's
And it's
cool.
like I've sat at Slick 6. I've been fortunate enough to sit there a bunch of times. I've only been able to go up that hill like 2 or 3 times out of, I don't know, probably
It
6
still
or 8.
haunts me that I was never able to go there.
You know, man, there'll be more. Hopefully we get some SpaceX launches out of Slick 6 soon, and hopefully they credential media for them. This is a shot of SN8, which flew 4 years ago today.
That's so difficult to wrap my head around.
4 years ago today, this happened. Isn't that nuts?
Yeah.
This photo is obviously significant to me for a whole bunch of reasons, not least of which because we had no idea what to expect on the suborbital hop tests, and everyone after SN8, we kind of had a better idea because we had seen SN8, but with SN8, all bets were off. I mean, we were like, is it going to go supersonic on the way up? Are they going to throttle the engines? Is it going to be carrying some kind of ballast? Like, we just didn't know. We didn't know what a belly flop would look like. We didn't. It's just what a day. That was such a special day, and one of those moments working with NSF that will forever be extremely special to me in my heart.
That was a great day.
It was a really, really good day. Wow, nice transit.
Ooh. Wow. Yeah, this one still brings back a lot of good memories. So this is actually maybe 2 or 3 weeks before the launch of Artemis 1 in 2022. This was the launch of Falcon 9 on the Galaxy 33 and 34 mission. The full moon had just come up, maybe less than 10 minutes after sunset. So there was a bunch of nice colors in the sky for our cameras that were over on the launch pad, and of course, if you were in the correct location over on the coast, you would see Falcon 9 flying directly in front of a full moon, and that is something I've been wanting to capture for a very long time, and that was my first one that I've ever done. I don't think I've done it since. I've tried. I'm still haunted about the Falcon Heavy transit last December. I still think about that. It's because I could have done that, but I didn't. Anyway, this photo is just so special to me personally. My first ever transit, and it came out so well, being just after sunset and the light still being somewhat prevalent. And if you look in the detail of the exhaust, you can see where the exhaust by itself leaves its gas trail toward the end of the flame tail. And also, if you look out to the sides of that, where the edges of the moon almost ripple, that is the acoustic energy rippling out from the flame tail, and thus distorting the light coming from the moon, which I find is like one of the most unique details from any perspective for a launch, or for any flight ever of anything. So yeah, lots of good memories with this one. Did we lose Jack?
No, I'm here. The heat distortion is so beautiful, and the sound waves disrupting the edge of the moon too is also just so beautiful. Transit shots are like, oh, they're so hard. We have some tools now that make them a little bit easier, like Flight Club, but still, even with something like Flight Club, which is amazing, don't get me wrong, it's still you're hoping, you're praying to the photo gods that you're in the exact right spot and there's no cloud and everything works out and etc. So that's
it's super tough as well, because like literally like 2 steps to your right or 2 steps to your left literally makes a huge difference in terms of where on the actual disc the rocket is going to fly past. Like, it's not like you're within like a quarter mile distance where you'll get it. Like, it's within literally feet that, like, it matters that much.
Yeah, you have to be basically at the exact right pinpoint.
Exactly.
What do we got? What do we got next? Oh, we got a shot from D.
Yeah, so this one is
I love
from
this.
the PSN Satria mission, and I mean those who follow the channel well know I really like behind the scenes and focusing on the human element and sharing that part of sharing the story, because there's a lot that isn't told all the time. And so normally, if you set a remote camera and you get your photo back, you can pick it up and you see that there's another camera in your shot, you get a bit frustrated I definitely have some shots that I've set up, and then when we pick them up, I'm like, oh, there is now a tripod in front of my camera. But this one, I waited till like the end of the remote camera setup to put this one down. I think 3 of the cameras in front of it are also mine, but I really wanted to show the cameras out here capturing it. You know, bag our cameras, do all this prep work, lay stuff out in advance, all to just tell the story of
Yeah.
spaceflight as well as we can. And with it's a slight diagonal down with the highest camera on the far left and the shortest camera on the right where the rocket is.
It's
So
a good,
like
it's a good
they
eye
don't
line.
interrupt the rocket itself.
Yeah.
They kind of cover the plume or the grass, and so this one, honestly, like all the launches blur together a little bit. So I don't remember too many specifics of the launch experience, but photos like this, I think, do a great job helping me share that, and that's what I really like to do.
Yeah, I mean it's beautiful composition, D, and I do love the shots that show the cameras. I think one of my favorite shots from Artemis, from all the setups and breakdowns and everything, or just seeing the swarm of cameras around the palm tree spot. Or likewise at Vandenberg, there's like a hill spot for Slick 4 that's always really cool to see like all of the cameras set up. It's a cool look.
Yeah, and we all work together out there when we're setting up cameras.
I
We
love that.
talk to each other, figure out where we're planning to set up, avoid setting in each other's location.
Yep.
Like,
Try and make sure you're not occluding anybody, you're not too close to someone for their comfort. If you have zip
yeah,
ties and someone needs them, if someone has hand warmers and you need them, if someone has a hammer so you can stake your like everybody the camera fam is it means a lot to me that we're all so cool with each other because it could easily not be that, you know. Here's a transit shot from me. Same kind of deal, except the sun instead of the moon. This one was like straight up guessing. I had no idea. Max, how high off the horizon was the moon for your transit shot?
Not far, maybe 5 degrees. Like it was not far off the horizon at all.
Yeah, right. So
how
so
far
a
was
lot
this?
of a lot of the time when you're planning a transit shot, you go for it when the moon or sun will be low on the horizon, so it'll be passed by the rocket will pass by it while it's relatively low, you know, coming off the pad. So you have a pretty dang good idea of where it'll be. This was probably about 45 degrees, maybe more.
Holy cow, really?
Yeah, way up in the sky.
Wow.
Way up in the sky. Partly because of where I went was just off Ocean Avenue in Vandenberg, and the other challenging thing is I couldn't see the rocket on the pad because Vandenberg mountains. So I did some flight clubbery and did some guesswork and crossed my fingers and prayed. And this is the only time I've tried to shoot this shot. And I drove, I think I was like shooting I was editing a Starbase update or a flyover or something. And I was like, you know what, this is going to have to wait. And I just drove 3 hours to Vandenberg, put my camera tripod down, shot this in like 5 minutes, started screaming because I was so happy. And then drove 3 hours back to LA while my phone blew up. Like, yeah, there's a lot of things about this image that could be better. But hey, for shooting fish in a barrel, wait, that's not the right analogy. For shooting completely blind and pulling
for
it
shooting
off,
rockets in the sky.
dead center in the sun, no less. I'm pretty pleased with that one.
I think for anyone who's I guess just tuning in or is still watching along with us, I think you can tell that we love what we do and we really believe in the mission of really sharing and documenting all these moments in spaceflight that are
It's what drives us. It's literally
it's exactly
like
what drives us.
what we do.
Literally,
I mean, I said it.
What we do. Yeah,
I said at the top of the
Go
show,
ahead,
we
Jeff.
are, you know, a group of extremely dedicated individuals, and our mission is to, you know, stoke the hype train for the new space age because we live in a new space age, and I don't think most people know that. I mean, chat, I know you all know that, but the best thing I think we can do as an organization is, or one of the best things, is to get more people informed about where we're at. We live in the future, like, and by using imagery, photography, and video to really drive that home and give us a sense of place on this planet is, I mean, it's a noble pursuit.
Maybe give a sense of hope to those about the future.
Yeah, I mean, that's
going back to the moon, going to Mars. Like, we are going to need media for that, photos, videos. So if anyone needs any volunteers, I think you know where to find a handful.
I'll go.
Yeah, somebody in chat earlier was like, Jack, would you go to the ISS? Yes, I know. I think all three of us would, right?
On a moment, if I was told, hey, drive to the airport right now, go train, I would be gone.
Or even if like, hey, we're leaving tomorrow. Yes.
Yeah, if I was told I needed to hop in my car and drive to 39A, I'd do it.
Like, you're gonna be there for a year. Do you still do it?
Yes.
Yeah.
No question. Yeah, no question. Thank you so much to everybody for the support on this stream. We're really, like I said earlier, we're really tight for time, so I do want to make sure I thank everybody. Mark G388, thanks for becoming a PadRat member. Linus becoming a PadRat member. Brian Brooks becoming a PadRat member. Matthew Otta becoming a PadRat member. Devin Waldron gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Thank you so much for that. And we talk about the membership program a lot. If you don't know what the membership program is, it's really awesome. There's all kinds of cool perks. At PadRat level, you get your name highlighted in the video chat, of course, and you get major live streams in 4K multi-view, which has like 9 different screens. So you get the multi-view for live streams at PadRat. So if you're coming in as a PadRat member, be sure you check that out. Also, there's like Discord access at higher levels and a bunch of amazing stuff. So check out the membership program. We really can't do this without the members. And it's not just this stream. It's all of our coverage, our 3 24/7 live streams, everything that we do, all of our launch coverage. So thank you to our members. Astro95 Media, what's up, dude? Thank you for the super chat. They say allocate to the bacon Jack will be using to celebrate. Well done, all. Thank you. Eric Frazier, thanks for the super and the kind words. Josh Schulten, thank you for the super chat. They say, do you get to choose what camera brand you shoot with up there? That is a really good question. We should add that to the doc in case we get to talk to any astronauts who are photographers in the future. But I do think it's generally Nikon, right?
Yeah, they sent up the new Nikon Z9s. They had a whole bunch of D50s, a whole bunch of other gear. So they mostly have Nikon up there. I know they've had Reds up there. They've had IMAX cameras up there. Like, I'm sure it varies. And maybe if a specific photographer is really passionate about their brand of cameras, like, maybe you could put that in your allotted luggage.
Yeah.
But as far as supplied equipment for astronauts to use, it seems to be
always been
Nikon and Hasselblad.
And
Hasselblad back in the day.
Yes.
Right. Here's one from Adam. It was for Don, unfortunately, but it's just how it goes. Thank you, Adam, for the super chat. You say, hey, Don, don't expect you to remember, but it was an honor being your summer intern in 2009, processing STS-126 time-lapse videos. It was one of the coolest experiences of my life. Thank you again for that opportunity. Adam, I want to know more about that. That's actually really, really cool. I'm sorry we didn't get to call that out on air. We had 20 minutes. We really tried to maximize the 20 minutes that we had. Russell Snodgrass with a $100 super chat. Russell.
Holy cow.
Seriously. Also, Adam, come on another photography show. I feel like we should do more photography shows. I like these.
We should.
Agreed. We
should. You two agree? What?
What a wild idea.
I know.
Russell, thank you so much for the super chat. That's so generous of you. And you always are coming out with huge amounts of support for what we do. So, again, thank you. We'll keep doing what we do with your support. They say, this is just so epic. Thanks to NSF for building the credibility to pull this off. We try. I know we have fun on some streams and we talk about bagels and bacon and put Y on the end of names, but at the end of the day, we are spaceflight news reporters and we do try to be professional when it's warranted. Devin Waldron, thanks for gifting 10 Red Team memberships. Meaningless with a $100 super chat. What?
Holy cow.
Meaningless, thank you so much. It's another one of those names that's starting to pop up more and more, too. Thank you so much, Meaningless. They say, thank you, NSF and Don Pettit, for this great event. Seriously. Thank you, NASA. Thank you, Don.
Yeah. Thank you, JSC. Thank you, everyone who works with the ISS. That was an incredible privilege.
Privilege. Honor. Absolutely. Mats Gosselar, another name that we see all the time with huge amounts of support, gifting 50 Red Team memberships. Be sure you thank Mats if you got gifted membership from him. Thank you so much, Mats. And finally, Josh Schulten. Thanks, Josh, for the super chat there. They say, it's amazing having somebody who knows his equipment so well that he can go beyond normal shooting and try new things to give us even greater perspectives of our small place in the universe. Great interview, NSF. I've been saying this for years. For years. This is part of the reason why Dear Moon meant so much to me and was so inspiring to me, is we should send artists. Doesn't have to be a photographer, doesn't have to be a cinematographer, could be a musician, could be a painter, could be any number of things, a poet, but we should send artists. And part of the reason why Starship gets me personally so excited is because regular, ordinary, aviators, non-flight test people, non-astronauts can fly and make things that haven't been ever made before.
Part of the world. It's our goal. It's our job.
Should have sent a poet. That's a Contact reference. All right. Well,
there should be at least 2 photographers and a cinematographer on the
I would
flight,
second
though.
that.
yeah, and there should be an AD and a sound guy and maybe a grip. Heck, throw in a Best Boy Electric while we're at it. I mean, we're going to be doing.
I was just saying for us 3 at least, you know.
Oh, yeah, no other stuff. None of that other stuff. Just us 3. Oh,
we need some writers up there for sure.
Goodness.
Also,
yeah, but who's going to go? I think both Adrian and Alex are on record as saying that they don't want to go.
Well, it's his loss.
Kevin, we need to operate the stream from space.
Kevin,
would you operate a stream from space?
Kevin says he's going. He's in.
He's in.
All right.
I mean, think of all the fade buttons you could accidentally press if you're floating around in microgravity.
The flame trench from orbit.
The orbit trench.
There's an idea.
We'll workshop it. All right, y'all.
This is great.
I and we have gotten to do some really amazing things in our careers. I don't know really how you could top that. I look forward to trying, but with your support, we'll definitely keep doing cool stuff like this. Thank you, Max and Dee, for being on and helping to plan this all out. I'm so glad we spent that time yesterday.
Of course, this is a wonderful opportunity, and I'm so glad we were able to make it happen with the support of the station in Houston and so many people that
and Don
support all this stuff.
So I actually met Don at a TEDx conference in my hometown back in late 2019. And he's always been like the top 5 astronaut for me, simply for his work in photography and just the amazing human being that he is. And so I met him again at one of the Artemis rollouts, and to come full circle with him again, talking. Well, obviously we weren't talking to him, you were, Jack, but just hearing him talk about his work and how passionate he was about it and the purpose that it holds and serves and what it means to him just brings everything full circle again. He's just an absolutely quality human being, and we are so grateful to be here to help share this with everybody.
Absolutely. And for real, thank you so much to Kevin and Jay, or as I'm going to start calling them, Jevin, for putting this together. Seriously, what a treat. What an absolute treat. I hope y'all out there in viewerland enjoyed it. Yeah, I think with that, do we wrap it? Do we wrap it up?
I think it's about time.
About that time. All right.
About that time.
Y'all, thank you so much for watching. Once again, thank you to NASA. Thank you to Johnson Space Center. Thank you to Don Pettit for talking with us. Thank you, American taxpayers, for paying for the ISS.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, plants, for making oxygen. Thank you to launch directors and flight engineers. Thank you so much. Seriously, members, we can't do this stuff. Everything we do. 3 24/7 live streams, all the videos, all the streams, everything. Can't do it without you guys, so thank you. All right. We're going to call it for this one. We'll see you nerds on the next one. Thanks for watching.
And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
All right, 68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up.
43 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
The methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You dead? Sure. We don't need any more of these.